Welcome to this deep dive. Today, we're taking a close look at a career path that gets a lot of buzz, especially for folks thinking about moving into tech. That's business analysis.
Right, a BA.
Exactly. Our mission today, really get under the hood of what a business analyst actually does, what skills you really need, and maybe how you could become one.
hmm
Even if maybe your background isn't strictly IT, we've got some great insights from a podcast script that really unpack this.
Yeah, it's a role it's super important for making sure the business goals and the tech side are actually speaking the same language.
Mm-hmm.
And what's cool is people land in business analysis from all sorts of different places.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just one single path in.
Okay, let's dive in then. What is a business analyst? Because the title itself, it can sound a bit, I don't know, vague.
Yeah, it can.
Mm.
Think of a BA as a kind of translator or maybe a bridge. Yeah, a bridge between the business units like, say, marketing or operations, and the technical teams, the ones actually building or managing the software and systems. They're the ones who dig in, figure out what problems the business is facing, and then suggest solutions. Importantly, solutions backed by, actual data or analysis.
Okay, so give me an example.
Sure. Imagine a company's online sales are slipping. The business side knows there's a problem. Sales are down.
Right.
The tech team might be thinking, okay, technically, what needs changing on the website?
Mm-hmm.
The BA steps right into that gap.
Mm-hmm.
Their job is to talk to everyone, understand the real issues behind the sales dip, and define exactly what needs to change. Is it the checkout process? Is the site confusing? They figure out the what.
So, crucially, they aren't usually the ones writing the code for the website fix.
Not typically, no. Their focus is squarely on understanding the business need, documenting it so it's super clear, and making sure everybody from the marketing manager to the lead developer is on the same page about what success looks like. Lots of talking, listening, writing things down clearly.
It really sounds like being a good detective almost. A problem solver with a lot of curiosity, always asking why.
That's a huge part of it. Absolutely. That inherent curiosity, that need to understand why things are the way they are, or why someone is asking for a specific feature. That's foundational. It's not just taking orders. It's about understanding the root cause and the bigger business picture.
Yeah.
The source material we looked at really hammered that home.
Okay, so that gives us a good handle on what a BA is, but what about their day-to-day? I mean, I hear analyst, and sometimes I just picture spreadsheets everywhere.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's a common stereotype.
Yeah.
And look, data analysis can be part of it for sure. But a BA's day, it's usually way more varied than just staring at Excel.
Okay.
And it's definitely not just endless meetings either, though talking to people is key.
So what are they doing?
Well, on any given day, they might be interviewing stakeholders.
Stakeholders meaning?
Oh, right. Anyone who's got a stake in the project, basically. Could be customers, could be department heads, could be the tech team members themselves, anyone affected by or interested in the business problem or the solution. So interviewing them, really digging into their challenges, their needs, what they hope to achieve.
Okay.
Then there's gathering and documenting the requirements, like really carefully writing down what the system or process needs to do. That becomes the blueprint.
And that blueprint has to make sense to everyone, right? The business folks and the techies.
Exactly. Total clarity is the goal. They also often map out how things work now, the current business processes. You draw it out,
Why do that?
define the kinks. Where are the bottlenecks, the inefficiencies? Where can we improve? It helps you see the gaps between the ases and the to-be, where things are and where the business wants them to go.
Makes sense.
And then they translate all this understanding into things like user stories. Yeah, they're like short, simple descriptions of a feature from the user's point of view. Something like, as a shopper, I want to save items to a wish list so I can buy them later. Really focuses on the user value.
Right. Clear and concise.
Yep. And depending on the setup, a BA might even do some light testing just to check if the solution actually does what the requirements said it should.
Wow, okay. That's already a lot more varied than I thought. Anything else?
Oh, yeah. They could be running workshops, getting key people in a room together to brainstorm, hash out ideas, agree on priorities.
Collaborative.
Very collaborative. Sometimes they create wireframes too.
Like sketches of screens.
Exactly. Simple visual guides of what a website or app screen might look like. Helps everyone visualize the solution and give feedback really early before any code gets written.
Smart.
And, of course, all through the development phase, they're working closely with the developers, answering questions, clarifying things, making sure the build stays true to the original business goal.
It's quite the juggling act. The podcast source mentioned an example about reducing hospital wait times. How does a BA fit into that picture?
Ah, yeah, that's a great example of their impact. So, in a hospital setting, a BA might start by observing, watching the patient journey, talking to nurses, doctors, reception staff, maybe even patients, to understand the entire process from check-in to discharge.
Mapping it all out.
Mapping it out, precisely.
Yeah.
And identifying exactly where those delays are cropping up. Is it registration, waiting for a specific test, getting discharge papers?
Mm-hmm.
They'd also probably look at data appointment lengths, arrival patterns, resource usage, the numbers side.
Right.
And based on all the conversations, the process map, the data, they'd propose solutions. Maybe it's tweaking the appointment system. Maybe it's suggesting new software for better patient flow. Maybe it's rearranging staff duties.
So they define the problem and the potential fix.
Yeah. They define the what. What's broken, what needs to change. And they document the requirements for that change. That clear definition is what enables the hospital to actually implement something that hopefully cuts down those frustrating waits. Yeah. It shows the real-world impact they can have.
Okay, got it. Problem solvers, communicators, organizers, bridging that gap. So what about the tools? What's in the BA toolkit? Do you need to be some kind of software guru?
Not necessarily a guru, no, but you definitely need to be comfortable using certain tools. It's more about using them to communicate and organize effectively.
Like what?
Well, Jira is a big one you hear about a lot.
Right, for project management stuff.
Yeah, specifically for tracking requirements, breaking down work into tasks, managing progress. It helps keep everyone on the same page within the project team. Then there's often something like Confluence. Think of it like a shared online workspace or wiki. It's great for storing all the project documentation, the requirements docs, meeting notes, process maps, all in one accessible place. The podcast script really highlighted how these make ideas tangible and traceable.
So managing information, managing tasks, what about visualizing things? You mentioned process maps.
Right. For that, tools like Lucidchart or Microsoft Visio are really common. They let you create those flowcharts and diagrams visually. Makes it much easier to understand complex processes than just reading text.
Yeah, I can see that.
And honestly, don't underestimate the power of good old Excel or Google Sheets. Still essential for basic data analysis, organizing lists of requirements, sometimes even creating simple trackers or reports.
Okay, standard office tools still matter. The podcast also mentioned a few others. SQL, Figma, Balsamic. Are those more specialized?
Yeah, those are often the next level up, or used for specific types of BA work. SQL, that's structured query language, lets you talk directly to databases. So if a BA needs to pull specific data or do deeper analysis than a standard report allows, SQL is super useful.
So more data-heavy roles.
Could be, yeah. And Figma or Balsamic, those are tools for creating mock-ups or prototypes. Figma's quite powerful for detailed interface design. Balsamic is great for quick, low-fidelity wireframes. They help you create something interactive that stakeholders can actually click through.
Ah, so people can really see what it might look like.
Exactly. Gets much better feedback that way. But again, the key isn't mastering every single tool on day one. It's being willing to learn them and use them effectively to get your ideas across.
That paints a really clear picture. Now let's broaden out a bit. Where do BAs actually work? Is it just tech companies? And the big question, what's the pay like?
Right. Good questions. And the answer to where is, well, pretty much everywhere. It was actually kind of striking how broad it is. Yeah. Obviously, tech companies, software houses, but also finance banks, insurance companies, healthcare hospitals, pharma, e-commerce, retail, government departments. Startups absolutely need them, even nonprofits and NGOs. The podcast source even mentioned the United Nations hiring BAs.
Wow, the UN.
Basically, any organization that relies on processes and technology to get things done can benefit hugely from a BA. It just shows how universal that need is to bridge business and tech.
That's way broader than I might have guessed.
Well,
Okay, so the opportunities are widespread. What about the money side? Is it a well-compensated role?
generally, yes, very much so. Compensation is typically quite competitive. In the U.S., for example, someone starting out, an entry-level BA, might expect somewhere in the range of, say, $70,000 to $85,000.
That's a solid starting point.
Definitely. And then with a few years' experience, mid-level BAs, they're often comfortably clearing $100,000, sometimes significantly more, depending on the industry and location.
And for more senior roles.
Yeah, if you move into a lead BA role or maybe transition into something like a product owner, which is a common path, then yeah, six-figure salaries are very much the norm.
That's certainly encouraging for anyone considering it. And the podcast suggested it's similar in other places too, not just the US.
That's right. They mentioned places like Canada, the UK, Australia. Salary ranges are also quite strong for BAs there. And another key point is that being a BA is often a fantastic launchpad.
How so?
The skills you develop, understanding business, solving problems, communication, working with tech teams, they're incredibly valuable and transferable. It can lead quite naturally into roles like product management, becoming a scrum master, maybe going into IT consulting. Lots of doors can open up.
Okay, this is sounding like a really viable and interesting path. So let's talk about making the switch. For someone listening now, maybe working in a totally different field, no traditional IT background, but thinking, this BA thing sounds like me. What are the actual steps? It must feel like a big leap.
It can seem daunting, yeah, but it's absolutely doable. The first thing, really, is just getting your head around the core concepts.
The fundamentals.
Exactly. What is business analysis, fundamentally? Understanding how businesses operate, how to effectively gather requirements from people, how to map out a process, how to write those user stories we talked about. You need that foundation.
And you don't need a computer science degree for that.
Not at all. There are tons of resources out there, online courses, books, workshops, focused specifically on these BA fundamentals. The podcast script we reviewed really stressed starting there.
Right. And then the tools we mentioned, getting familiar with those.
Yep, that's step 2. Gaining some hands-on familiarity with key tools like Jira, maybe Lucidchart or Visio, and definitely Excel or Sheets.
How do you get hands-on if you're not in the job yet?
Great question. Practice. Work through case studies. Many courses include mock projects. The podcast mentioned their students tackle scenarios in different industries like healthcare or finance. That gives you practical application. You can even try mapping out a process you know well from a previous job or analyzing a website you use, often from a BA perspective. Build a mini portfolio.
So create your own experience, in a way.
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
Document what you did. It gives you something concrete to talk about and demonstrate.
Okay, that makes sense. What about leveraging the experience someone already has, even if it's non-tech?
This is absolutely crucial. It's about branding, or maybe better, translating your existing experience.
Translating.
Yeah. Think about the skills you used in previous roles. Let's say you were a teacher. You definitely dealt with stakeholders, right? Students, parents, school admin.
Sure.
You analyzed performance student progress reports. You identified needs and developed plans, lesson plans, addressing specific learning gaps. Those are core BA skills, just in a different context.
Ah, I see. So you reframe it.
Exactly. You highlight those transferable skills, communication, problem solving, analysis, stakeholder management on your resume, on LinkedIn, and crucially, in interviews. Show how your background actually makes you well-suited for a BA role.
That reframing piece sounds key. And then I guess preparing for the interviews themselves must be vital.
Oh, absolutely. You need to be ready to talk the talk. Practice explaining BA concepts clearly. Be prepared for scenario-based questions. How would you handle this situation? They want to see how you think like a BA.
So thinking on your feet.
Thinking on your feet, communicating clearly, showing your enthusiasm, and confidently connecting your past experience to the BA role, even if it's not a direct tech background. Practice those common interview questions. Be ready to tell your story.
This has been incredibly insightful, really helps demystify the whole BA thing. So the big takeaway seems to be this isn't some exclusive club just for hardcore tech people.
Not at all. That's the main message. A career as a business analyst is genuinely an attainable, rewarding path into the tech world, and it's open to people from all sorts of backgrounds if they're willing to learn the concepts and skills.
So maybe as you're listening, something to ponder is this. How could the skills you already possess, that curiosity you might have about how things work, how could that map onto this world of business analysis? You know, what kind of impact could you make being that vital link, that bridge between what a business needs and the technology that makes it happen? Definitely some food for thought there.